Before we begin, take a slow, comfortable breath. Allow your shoulders to relax. There is nowhere you need to be, nothing you need to do. For the next little while, you are simply a traveler, stepping quietly into another time. 100 years ago, hidden among the rolling hills of New England, there was a small American town called Maple Hollow. You won't find its name on most modern maps. Few people remember it today. Yet, for those who once lived there, Maple Hollow was a place where life followed a gentle rhythm that seemed untouched by the busy world beyond its borders. The town had one quiet tradition that visitors often remembered for the rest of their lives. Every evening, just as the last rays of sunlight slipped behind the hills, a single brass bell would ring, only once, never twice. The sound drifted across the streets, through the apple orchards, past the old railway station, and over Willow Creek. No one hurried when they heard it. Instead, families quietly finished their conversations. Shopkeepers closed their doors. Children looked toward the sky. Lanterns were lit one by one, and the entire town seemed to slow down together. No one could say exactly when the tradition had begun. Some believed it started after the Civil War. Others thought it was even older. By the autumn of 1924, it had simply become part of everyday life. Tonight, you have arrived just before that bell is about to ring. The dusty road beneath your feet is lined with tall maple trees, glowing in shades of gold, crimson, and amber. A cool autumn breeze carries the scent of fresh bread from the bakery, wood smoke rising from nearby chimneys, and crisp leaves scattered across the ground. Ahead, the town waits quietly. The station master checks the clock hanging above the railway platform. The baker removes the final loaf from the oven. A farmer gently closes the gate to his pasture. The schoolhouse stands empty now, its windows reflecting the warm colors of the evening sky. Everything feels peaceful. Everything feels unhurried. You walk slowly toward the center of town. An elderly man sitting on a wooden bench smiles warmly as you pass. He tips his hat, but says nothing. There is no need for many words here. Maple Hollow has always understood that silence can be just as welcoming as conversation. Then, from somewhere near the white church at the top of the hill, you hear it. A single, gentle bell. Its clear note rolls softly through the valley, across rooftops, across quiet gardens, across Willow Creek. For a few peaceful moments, the entire town seems to pause. And without realizing it, you pause too. Because in Maple Hollow, the evening never truly begins until the forgotten bell has been heard. The sound of the bell lingers in the cool autumn air, not because it is loud, but because the valley is so wonderfully quiet. For a few peaceful moments, even the breeze seems to slow down. You remain standing in the middle of the cobblestone street, watching as Maple Hollow gently settles into its evening rhythm. A shopkeeper carefully turns the small wooden sign on his door. It now reads, "Closed until morning." He locks the door, places the brass key into his coat pocket, and smiles at a young couple walking hand in hand across the square. No one rushes home. There is still time to enjoy the last light of day. Across the street, the warm glow from the bakery windows spills onto the sidewalk. Inside, the baker brushes a little flour from his apron before placing fresh loaves onto wooden shelves to cool. The rich aroma of warm bread drifts through the town. It mingles with the scent of burning oak from nearby fireplaces and the sweet fragrance of apples gathered earlier that afternoon. You take a slow breath. The air itself feels comforting. Then you notice someone. An older gentleman steps quietly out of the post office. He wears a brown wool coat, polished leather boots, and a neatly worn felt hat. In one hand, he carries a well-used leather mailbag. In the other, a small brass lantern. His name is Thomas Walker. For nearly 30 years, Thomas has delivered letters to every family in Maple Hollow. He knows every road, every farmhouse, every bridge, every family name. He remembers where children once played before they grew into adults. He remembers which maple tree was struck by lightning 20 summers ago. He remembers the winter when Willow Creek froze so completely that neighbors walked across it instead of using the bridge. The people of Maple Hollow often say, if Thomas remembers it, then it truly happened. Thomas pauses beneath the large maple tree in the town square. He looks up at the colorful leaves moving gently in the evening breeze. Then, with a quiet smile, he adjusts the strap of his mailbag and begins walking toward the western road. Without saying a word, you decide to follow him. Not too closely, just enough to hear the soft crunch of autumn leaves beneath his boots. The streets become quieter with every step. Behind you, the last shop windows grow smaller. Ahead, the road is lined with white wooden fences and old stone walls covered with soft green moss. The golden light of sunset slowly fades into shades of blue and lavender. Small lanterns begin appearing one by one in the windows of nearby homes. Their warm glow welcomes the evening. As Thomas reaches the first farmhouse, he doesn't knock immediately. Instead, he pauses for a moment to admire a row of bright orange pumpkins resting neatly on the porch steps. A sleepy orange cat stretches lazily beside them before curling back into a comfortable ball. Thomas smiles. Only then does he gently tap on the wooden door. An elderly woman opens it. "Good evening, Thomas," she says softly. "Good evening, Mrs. Harper," he replies. "I believe your grandson has written from Boston." Her eyes brighten. She accepts the letter with both hands, holding it carefully as though it were something precious. Because in 1924, it is. Thomas tips his hat. No long conversation, no unnecessary words, just kindness, quiet respect, and another letter safely delivered. You continue following him as the evening grows calmer. Above, the first bright stars begin appearing in the deepening sky. The forgotten bell has long since fallen silent, but somehow, its peaceful echo still seems to linger across Maple Hollow. And with every slow step, you begin to understand why this little town remained unforgettable to everyone who ever visited. Thomas Walker continues down the quiet country road. His footsteps are slow and steady. The leather mailbag rests comfortably against his shoulder, moving gently with each step. He has walked these roads almost every evening for 30 years. He no longer needs to think about where he is going. His feet seem to remember every bend in the road by themselves. You follow a respectful distance behind. The evening air grows cooler. Somewhere nearby, dry maple leaves tumble softly across the road before coming to rest against a white wooden fence. Above, the sky has turned a deep shade of blue. The first stars shine quietly over the valley. Ahead, A narrow wooden bridge crosses a small stream that flows into Willow Creek. Thomas slows his pace. As he reaches the middle of the bridge, he pauses for just a moment. Not because he is tired, because this is something he has done every evening for as long as anyone can remember. He rests one hand upon the smooth wooden railing. Then he looks down at the water below. The stream moves gently around smooth stones, polished by many years of flowing water. Moonlight has not yet reached the valley. Instead, the last soft colors of sunset shimmer across the surface. Thomas smiles quietly. Perhaps he is remembering another evening, or perhaps he simply enjoys this peaceful view. Some traditions need no explanation. You stand beside him. Neither of you speaks. Sometimes silence is the most comfortable conversation of all. After another quiet moment, Thomas adjusts his hat and continues walking. On the other side of the bridge, the road climbs gently toward a cluster of old maple trees. Beneath them stands a small white cottage with blue shutters. A thin ribbon of smoke rises from its stone chimney. The smell of burning oak drifts lazily through the cool air. On the front porch, a little girl sits wrapped in a knitted blanket. She cannot be more than 8 years old. A book rests open on her lap. She's reading aloud to her grandfather, whose rocking chair moves slowly back and forth. Back and forth. Back and forth. He closes his eyes, listening carefully to every word. Not because he cannot read, but because hearing his granddaughter's voice has become his favorite part of the evening. Thomas walks quietly through the gate. The little girl notices him first. "Mr. Walker," she whispers with a bright smile, careful not to disturb the peaceful evening. Thomas smiles warmly. "I have something for your grandfather." He reaches into his worn leather mailbag and carefully removes a cream-colored envelope. The old gentleman accepts it with gentle hands. He studies the handwriting for a moment. A peaceful smile slowly appears. "My brother," he says softly. "From Maine." Thomas nods. "I believe so." The old man places the unopened letter beside him. "There will be time to read it after supper," he says. "For now." He looks toward the fading sky. "I'd rather enjoy this beautiful evening." Thomas tips his hat once again. There is no hurry to open the letter, no rush to discover its contents. The moment itself is already enough. As you leave the cottage, the sound of the rocking chair fades gently behind you. The road continues toward open fields, where fireflies have begun to appear. Tiny golden lights drift lazily above the tall grass, blinking softly, then disappearing, only to appear again a few feet away. Thomas slows his pace once more. "Beautiful, aren't they?" he says quietly. It is the first time you have heard his voice since leaving the post office. His words are almost carried away by the evening breeze. He watches the tiny lights dancing across the meadow. "When I was a boy," he continues softly, "my mother used to say, these little lights were the stars coming down to visit the earth." He smiles to himself. "I knew it wasn't true, but every summer, I hoped she was right." You both stand there for another peaceful moment, watching the fireflies drift through the quiet fields. Above them, the real stars continue appearing one by one until it becomes almost impossible to tell where the sky ends and where the little lights of Maple Hollow begin. And somewhere in the distance, The gentle sound of Willow Creek continues its endless journey through the valley, just as it has for countless peaceful evenings before this one. The tiny lights of the fireflies drift quietly behind you. Soon, only the gentle glow of Thomas Walker's lantern remains, painting a warm circle of light upon the peaceful country road. The evening has settled completely over Maple Hollow now. The sky above is filled with thousands of stars. Without the bright lights of modern cities, the Milky Way stretches gently across the heavens like a quiet river of silver. Thomas looks upward for a moment. "My father," he says softly, "used to know every constellation." He smiles. He didn't own a watch. He said the stars always told him what time it was. You look upward too. The night feels endless, calm, patient. The road curves through a grove of tall pine trees. Their branches sway gently high above, and the cool breeze carries the clean scent of pine needles and damp earth. The world feels wonderfully still. Ahead, another farmhouse comes into view. Unlike the others, no lantern burns on the porch. Instead, a single candle glows softly in the front window. Thomas slows his pace. "I always stop here a little longer," he whispers. The white gate opens with the softest creak. A neat flower garden rests beside the path, even though most of the summer blossoms have faded. Only a few light chrysanthemums still bloom quietly beneath the stars. Thomas removes a letter from his bag. The envelope is small. Its edges are slightly worn from traveling many miles by train. He walks to the porch and taps gently on the wooden door. After a few moments, the door opens. A young woman smiles kindly. She thanks Thomas in a quiet voice and accepts the letter carefully. Inside the house, you notice a wooden cradle beside the fireplace. A tiny baby sleeps peacefully beneath a handmade quilt. The room is warm, comfortable, filled with the comforting scent of fresh bread and cedar wood. Thomas does not stay long. He simply wishes her a peaceful evening before quietly returning to the path. As you continue walking, curiosity gently enters your mind. "You know everyone here," you say. Thomas lets out a soft laugh. "I suppose I do." He adjusts the strap of his old leather mailbag. When you've carried letters for 30 years, you don't just remember addresses, you remember lives. For a little while, neither of you speaks. Only the sound of your footsteps keeps you company. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Dry autumn leaves rest across the road like a soft blanket. After a few minutes, Thomas speaks again. "Do you know what I enjoy most about delivering letters?" You quietly shake your head. "It isn't the letters. It isn't the walking." He smiles gently. "It's watching the seasons change. I've seen children wave to me from these porches. Then years later, I've delivered wedding invitations to those same children. And later still, I've brought birthday cards for their grandchildren." He pauses for a moment. The roads stay the same. The trees grow taller, but life keeps moving quietly forward. The words drift into the peaceful night. There is no sadness in his voice, only gratitude. As the road leaves the trees behind, the valley opens once again. Far below, Maple Hollow glows with dozens of warm lanterns shining through cottage windows. From this distance, the little town looks like a handful of golden stars resting upon the earth. A cool breeze moves gently across the hillside. Somewhere in the darkness, an owl calls once before returning to silence. Thomas stops beside an old wooden fence. This he says quietly, is my favorite view. You stand beside him, looking across the peaceful valley. No factories, no highways, no rushing traffic, only winding roads, wooden barns, quiet homes, and the soft glow of lanterns welcoming families home. For a long moment, neither of you says anything. There is nothing that needs to be said. Sometimes, the most beautiful memories are made in complete silence. You take one slow breath, then another. The cool autumn air fills your lungs, and somewhere below, hidden among the quiet streets of Maple Hollow, another family waits patiently for Thomas Walker to arrive with one more letter before the night is through. The lanterns of Maple Hollow shimmer quietly below the hillside. From this distance, they look like tiny stars that have gently settled upon the earth. Thomas remains resting against the old wooden fence for another peaceful moment. His lantern hangs from one hand, swaying almost imperceptibly in the cool evening breeze. It changes every night, he says softly. You glance toward him. The view. No sunset is ever exactly the same. No autumn breeze carries quite the same scent. And no two evenings ever tell the same story. He smiles quietly before beginning to walk once more. The road now slopes gently downhill toward the western edge of town. Tall maple trees stand like silent guardians along both sides of the lane. Their leaves whisper together whenever the breeze passes through them. The sound is soft, almost like pages turning in an old book. As you continue walking, Thomas points toward a small wooden building sitting alone beneath a great elm tree. Its windows are dark now. A simple sign hangs above the porch. Maple Hollow Public Library. It isn't very large, Thomas says with a smile, but it has taken people farther than any train. You slow your pace. The library looks peaceful beneath the starlight. Inside those quiet walls are books about distant mountains, great oceans, ancient kingdoms, and places most of the townspeople will never visit. Yet through stories, they have traveled everywhere. Thomas chuckles gently. When I was a boy, I dreamed of becoming a sailor. What changed, you ask? He looks toward the library. I borrowed too many books. The stories brought the world here. I realized I didn't have to leave home to discover something new. The two of you continue down the quiet lane. A cool breeze carries the scent of old paper, pine wood, and distant fireplaces. Somewhere beyond the trees, a church choir is finishing a quiet evening rehearsal. The voices are too far away to understand the words. Only the gentle harmony reaches the road. It rises softly into the night before fading once more into silence. Thomas removes his hat for a moment, not out of ceremony, simply because he enjoys listening. When the final note disappears into the autumn air, he places his hat back on his head. Beautiful, he whispers. After another few minutes of walking, you arrive at a small stone bridge. Unlike the larger bridge near the railway station, this one is narrow enough for only a single wagon to cross at a time. Below, Willow Creek flows quietly through the valley. The water reflects both the stars above and the warm lantern light from nearby homes. Thomas rests his hands upon the smooth stone railing. I've crossed this bridge nearly every day since I was 17. He laughs softly. I suppose the bridge knows me better than most people do. You both watch the water for a while. A leaf lands gently upon the surface. The current carries it away without a sound. Thomas follows it with his eyes. My grandfather used to tell me something whenever we came here. He smiles at the memory. He would say, "Never rush a river. It already knows where it's going." The words settle into the quiet night. Simple, peaceful, easy to remember. You notice how naturally they seem to fit this little town. Nothing in Maple Hollow appears rushed. Not the people, not the seasons, not even the river. Beyond the bridge, the road bends toward a small hill where a white church stands beneath towering oak trees. Its tall windows glow softly from the light of a few remaining candles. The evening choir is finished. The last voices have gone home. Only one elderly caretaker remains inside, carefully extinguishing each candle, one by one. Thomas watches the final light disappear. When every candle goes out, he says quietly, the whole town somehow becomes even more peaceful. The church bell will not ring again until morning. The roads grow quieter. The stars grow brighter. And the peaceful heart of Maple Hollow settles gently into another autumn night. You take another slow breath. The cool air carries the scent of cedar, flowing water, and distant apple orchards. There is nothing waiting for you tomorrow. Nothing asking for your attention. Only this quiet walk, this gentle night, and the comforting feeling that somewhere ahead on the peaceful road, another story is waiting to be discovered. The white church slowly disappears behind you. Its tall steeple remains visible for a little while, rising above the maple trees like a quiet landmark watching over the sleeping valley. Thomas lifts his lantern slightly as the road becomes narrower. The warm light falls across smooth stones, patches of soft moss, and fallen leaves that seem to glow like polished gold. The night has grown wonderfully still. Even the breeze seems to move more gently now. Only the distant murmur of Willow Creek follows you through the darkness. After several peaceful minutes, the road reaches the oldest part of Maple Hollow. The houses here are different. Their wooden beams are darker. Their stone chimneys are taller. Many were built long before Thomas was born. He slows his pace. My grandfather helped build some of these homes, he says quietly. He arrived here with little more than a toolbox, a horse, and a great deal of hope. Thomas smiles to himself. He always believed that if you built something with patience, it would take care of generations you would never meet. You pass a cottage covered with climbing ivy. A small lantern glows beside the front door. Inside, through the lace curtains, an elderly couple sits together at a wooden table. The husband quietly carves a small toy boat from a piece of cedar wood. His wife carefully stitches a patch onto a wool blanket. Neither of them speaks. They don't seem to need to. The only sounds are the gentle scrape of the carving knife, the soft pull of thread through cloth, and the crackling fire in the stone fireplace. Thomas smiles. They've been married nearly 50 years. He doesn't knock. There isn't any mail tonight. But I always like knowing they're there. You continue walking. A little farther ahead, the road becomes shaded by enormous elm trees. Their branches reach across the lane, forming a peaceful tunnel beneath the stars. The lantern light dances softly across the trunks. Somewhere high above, a breeze moves through the leaves. The sound is so gentle that it almost resembles the quiet whisper of distant rain. After a while, Thomas suddenly stops. On the side of the road stands an old wooden bench. Its paint has almost disappeared after decades of sun, snow, and autumn storms. This bench, Thomas says with a warm smile, has quite a story. He gently brushes away a few fallen leaves before sitting down. You join him. For a moment, neither of you speaks. The silence feels comfortable, like sitting beside an old friend. My father built this bench in the spring of 1898, Thomas says. He said every long road deserves a place where people can rest. He gently runs his hand across the smooth wood. I've seen travelers sit here after long journeys. Young couples watching sunsets, children eating fresh apples, and soldiers returning home. His voice grows even softer. The bench never asked who they were. It simply offered them a place to rest. You both look out across the quiet valley. A light mist has begun rising from Willow Creek. It drifts slowly across the meadows, wrapping the fields in a soft, silver blanket. Far away, the faint whistle of a steam locomotive echoes through the hills. Not sharp, not loud, just a long, peaceful note carried gently by the cool night air. Thomas closes his eyes for a brief moment. I've heard that whistle almost every evening for 30 years. It always reminds me, he opens his eyes again, that somewhere beyond these hills, the world is busy. He smiles. But Maple Hollow has never tried to race the world. It simply keeps its own quiet rhythm. The lantern beside your feet flickers softly. Above, thousands of stars continue their slow journey across the autumn sky. Time itself seems to move differently here. Slower, kinder, more patient. You rise from the bench together. Thomas picks up his lantern and adjusts the strap of his old leather mailbag. There are only a few more letters tonight, he says, and one of them is very special. He doesn't explain why. He simply smiles and begins walking once more down the quiet road. Without a word, you follow him into the peaceful night. The road continues quietly beneath the old elm trees. Thomas walks at the same gentle pace he has kept all evening. Not too fast, not too slow, just enough to enjoy every peaceful moment along the way. The lantern in his hand creates a small circle of golden light, while the rest of the countryside remains wrapped in the soft, blue darkness of night. You walk beside him now. The silence between you feels natural, comfortable, like the kind of silence shared between people who do not need many words. After a while, Thomas turns toward a small dirt path leading away from the main road. This is the last stop, he says softly. The special letter. The path leads toward a small farmhouse at the edge of Maple Hollow. Unlike the other homes in town, this one sits farther away. Surrounded by tall pine trees, a small vegetable garden, and an old wooden fence that has stood there for many years. A warm light shines through one window. The chimney releases a thin trail of smoke into the night sky. As you approach the porch, Thomas slows down. He looks at the envelope in his hand. It is different from the others. The paper is thicker. The handwriting is careful and elegant. The edges are slightly worn, showing that it has traveled a long distance. Thomas holds it gently, almost like it is something fragile. He knocks softly, once, then waits. For a few moments, there is only the quiet sound of the wind moving through the pine trees. Then the door opens. An elderly woman appears. Her silver hair is tied neatly behind her head. She wears a warm, knitted shawl around her shoulders. When she sees Thomas, her expression changes, not with surprise, but with recognition. "Thomas," she says quietly, "you found it." Thomas smiles. "Yes, Mrs. Eleanor. I believe this one has been waiting a long time." She looks at the envelope. Her hands tremble slightly as she reaches for it. Not because she is weak, because some moments carry more meaning than others. She turns the envelope over. On the back is a name written in faded ink, a name she has not seen in many years. For a moment, she simply stands there, holding the letter, remembering. Thomas steps back respectfully. He knows some memories belong only to the person holding them. After a quiet moment, Mrs. Eleanor looks up. "Thank you." Her voice is gentle. Thomas nods. "Good evening." She smiles. "Good evening, Thomas." The door closes softly. The warm light disappears behind the curtain, and the farmhouse returns to silence. You continue walking with Thomas down the path. After a while, you ask quietly, "Who was the letter from?" Thomas looks toward the stars. For a moment, he does not answer. Then he says, "Sometimes a letter is not just a message. It is a piece of someone's life traveling through time." He looks back toward the farmhouse. Mrs. Eleanor had a brother. They were very close when they were young. But many years ago, he left Maple Hollow to see the world, like many young people did. The road becomes quiet again. He promised he would write, and he did, for many years. But eventually, the letters stopped. Thomas looks down at the road. Life takes people in different directions. The years pass, and sometimes people wonder if a promise was forgotten. The wind moves gently through the trees. But tonight, Thomas continues, an old promise found its way home. You both walk beneath the stars. There is no sadness in Thomas's voice, only understanding. Because in a town like Maple Hollow, people knew that life was made of arrivals and departures, of meetings and memories. The road begins to lead back toward the center of town. Most windows are dark now. The bakery has gone quiet. The railway station lantern still glows in the distance. The entire valley seems to be resting. Thomas looks toward the hill where the old brass bell hangs. "Tomorrow evening," he says softly, "the bell will ring again. Another day will end. Another story will begin." You look back at the peaceful town, the same streets, the same trees, the same stars. Yet somehow, everything feels a little more meaningful now. Because every quiet house, every glowing window, every person walking these roads carries a story of their own. And tonight, you have taken the first step into one of them. The road back toward town feels different now. Not because anything has changed, but because you have begun to notice the little things. The quiet glow of a lantern behind a window. The sound of a wooden door closing gently for the night. The soft movement of trees in the autumn breeze. Things that were always there, waiting to be noticed. Thomas walks slowly beside you. His old leather mailbag is almost empty now. Only one final envelope remains inside. The last letter of the evening. You can see that he has become quieter, not tired, just thoughtful. The path leads back toward the town square, where the great maple tree stands beneath the stars. Its branches stretch across the sky like gentle arms. A few golden leaves continue to fall. One lands beside Thomas's boot. He looks down and smiles. Funny thing about leaves, he says. They spend all summer holding on. And when autumn comes, they know exactly when it is time to let go. You watch another leaf drift slowly from the tree. It turns softly in the air before resting peacefully on the ground. Thomas continues walking. People are a little like that too. We spend so much time trying to hold on. To places, to moments, to memories. But sometimes, letting something move forward is its own kind of peace. His words are quiet, simple, but they remain with you. Soon, you arrive near the small railway station. The platform is empty now. The day's travelers have already gone home. The last train passed through nearly an hour ago. Only the station lantern remains glowing beneath the wooden roof. Inside the office, the station clock continues its steady rhythm. Tick, tick, tick. The sound fills the quiet room. Thomas walks toward the station entrance. One last stop, he says. You follow him inside. The station master sits behind a wooden desk, writing notes in a small journal. When he sees Thomas, he smiles. Still making the evening rounds? Thomas laughs softly. Some habits are difficult to leave behind. He reaches into his mailbag and removes the final envelope. This one is addressed to the station master himself. The man looks surprised. For me? Thomas nods. The station master carefully opens the letter. As he reads, a small smile appears on his face. You do not know what the letter says, and Thomas does not ask. Some messages are meant only for the person who receives them. The station master folds the paper carefully and places it inside his desk. Then he looks toward the window. Beautiful night. Thomas nods. Yes, one of the best. For a few moments, the two old friends simply stand there, watching the quiet railway tracks disappear into the darkness. The train will return in the morning. The mail will arrive again. People will travel. Letters will be written. Life will continue. But tonight, the station rests, the town rests, and everyone has returned safely home. Outside, Thomas steps onto the platform. He takes a deep breath of the cool autumn air. The stars above Maple Hollow shine brighter than ever. You know, he says softly, people often think big moments are what make a life special. But after all these years, I think it is the small ones, the quiet evenings, the familiar roads, the simple kindness between neighbors. Those are the moments we remember. You look across the valley. The little town glows peacefully beneath the night sky. A place where a single bell can bring everyone together. A place where a letter can carry a lifetime of memories. A place where an ordinary evening can become something worth remembering. Thomas lifts his lantern. The warm light reflects softly in his eyes. Come, he says. The night is getting colder. Together, you leave the railway station behind. The path ahead is quiet. The houses are sleeping. The stars continue their gentle journey above. And somewhere in the heart of Maple Hollow, the forgotten evening bell waits patiently for another tomorrow. The road from the railway station leads gently back toward the center of Maple Hollow. The town is quieter now than it was only an hour ago. Most windows have grown dark. Most fireplaces have settled into a soft orange glow. The busy moments of the day have disappeared, leaving behind only the peaceful feeling of a town resting after a long and honest day. Thomas walks slowly. His lantern creates a warm path of light across the old wooden sidewalks. The evening air has become cooler, and a thin mist begins to form above the fields. It moves gently between the houses, across the gardens, and along the quiet roads. Maple Hollow looks almost like a painting beneath the stars. As you walk, Thomas stops beside a small building near the town square. A wooden sign hangs above the door. Maple Hollow General Store. The store is closed now. The shutters are drawn, but a small light still shines through the back window. Thomas smiles. The owner is probably still counting tomorrow's supplies. He knocks lightly on the side door. After a few moments, an older man opens it. His name is Samuel. He owns the store and has served the people of Maple Hollow for more than 40 years. "Thomas," Samuel says warmly, "I thought you would have gone home by now." Thomas smiles. "I could say the same about you." Samuel laughs quietly. "Someone has to make sure this old store is ready for another morning." Inside, the store feels different at night. During the day, shelves are filled with customers, conversations, and the sounds of footsteps on wooden floors. But now, it feels peaceful. The shelves are neatly arranged. Glass jars reflect the soft lantern light. Bags of flour and sugar rest quietly in their places. A small bell hangs above the front door, waiting for tomorrow's first customer. Samuel pours 2 cups of warm tea. You sit together for a few quiet moments. No one speaks about important matters. They talk about simple things. The weather, the harvest, the changing colors of the trees, the possibility of an early snowfall this year. Small conversations, but important ones, because in towns like Maple Hollow, these conversations were how people stayed connected. Samuel looks toward the front window. "When I first opened this store," he says, "I thought people came here only to buy things." He smiles. "But I was wrong. They came to share news, to ask how their neighbors were doing, to feel like they belonged somewhere." Thomas nods. A store can sell many things, but the best thing it gives people is a place to meet. The clock on the wall slowly moves forward. The gentle ticking fills the quiet room. After finishing the tea, Thomas stands. "It is time for us to let Samuel finish his work." Samuel smiles. "Good night, Thomas." "Good night." Outside again, the night feels even more peaceful. The streets are empty, the stars are brighter, and the cold air carries the distant scent of wood smoke from nearby homes. As you walk toward the hill above town, Thomas points toward a small wooden building beside the church. "The bell tower," he says. You look up. Inside that tower hangs the brass bell that has guided Maple Hollow evenings for generations. It is not large, it is not decorated, it is simply a bell. But to the people of this town, it means home. Thomas stops at the bottom of the hill. Tomorrow evening, someone will climb those steps. Someone will pull the old rope. And once again, one gentle sound will travel across the valley. A reminder that another day has ended. A reminder that everyone has a place to return to. A reminder that even the quietest moments can become treasured memories. The night grows deeper. Thomas lowers his lantern. "You should rest," he says softly. "Tomorrow is another beautiful day." You look once more at Maple Hollow, the peaceful homes, the sleeping streets, the old church tower, the distant fields. Everything seems exactly where it belongs. And as the stars continue shining above the valley, the little town slowly drifts into sleep. The night settles deeper over Maple Hollow. The streets that were once filled with footsteps and conversations are now covered in a peaceful silence. Only the gentle sounds of the countryside remain, the soft movement of tree branches, the distant song of a night bird, the quiet flow of Willow Creek moving through the valley. Thomas walks with you toward the small cottage where he lives. It sits near the edge of town, beneath a large maple tree that has stood there for many decades. A simple wooden fence surrounds the small garden. A stack of firewood rests neatly beside the front porch. Everything about the cottage feels warm and familiar. Not grand, not impressive, just comfortable. Just home. Thomas opens the wooden gate. It makes a soft sound as it moves. He smiles. I've been meaning to fix that gate for years. You notice that he does not sound bothered by it. Instead, he seems almost amused. Some things, he says, become part of a place because they have been there for so long. The porch boards creak gently beneath your feet. A small lantern hangs beside the front door. Thomas unlocks the door and steps inside. The cottage is simple. A wooden table sits near the window. A comfortable chair rests beside the fireplace. A shelf holds old books, carefully arranged. On the wall hangs a framed photograph. Thomas notices you looking at it. My family, he says quietly. The photograph is old. The edges are slightly worn, but the smiles remain clear. A younger Thomas stands beside his parents. Everyone is dressed neatly. Everyone looks hopeful. They were the ones who taught me about this town. He walks closer to the photograph. My father taught me that a person is remembered not by what they own, but by what they give. My mother taught me that kindness is never wasted. Thomas places another piece of wood into the fireplace. The flames begin to grow. The warm light fills the room. Outside, the wind moves gently through the maple branches. Inside, everything feels calm. Thomas removes his coat and places his hat beside the door. After carrying letters all evening, he finally allows himself to rest. He pours a small cup of tea and sits near the window. You sit quietly nearby. For a while, neither of you speaks. The fire crackles softly. The clock on the wall ticks steadily. The room feels like a place where time has slowed down. After a few moments, Thomas looks toward the window. You know what I like most about evenings? You wait. He smiles. They remind us that every day has an ending. Even the busiest days. Even the hardest days. They all eventually become quiet. The words settle gently into the room. There is comfort in them. Because tomorrow does not need to be solved tonight. Tonight is simply a time to rest. Thomas reaches toward a small wooden box on the table. Inside are dozens of old letters. Some are tied together with a piece of blue ribbon. Some are folded carefully. Some have faded ink. He touches them gently. People think letters are only words on paper, but sometimes they are memories waiting to be opened. He chooses one envelope. The paper is old. The handwriting is familiar. This one came nearly 20 years ago. He does not open it. He simply holds it. Some memories are beautiful because we know they are there. The fire continues glowing. The night continues passing. And somewhere outside, beneath the quiet stars of Maple Hollow, Another story rests inside an old letter, waiting patiently, just like the forgotten bell, just like the changing seasons, just like tomorrow morning. The fire continues to glow softly inside Thomas Walker's cottage. The room is warm, the kind of warmth that does not come only from the flames, but from the feeling of being somewhere safe, somewhere peaceful. Outside, the autumn wind moves through the maple branches. The leaves create a gentle whisper against the window. Thomas sits quietly beside the fireplace, holding the old envelope in his hands. For a moment, he seems lost in memory. Not a sad memory, a meaningful one. Finally, he places the letter back inside the wooden box. Some stories, he says softly, are better saved for the right evening. He closes the lid carefully. You look around the small cottage. Everything here seems to have a history. The wooden table near the window has small marks from years of use. The chair beside the fireplace has been repaired more than once. The bookshelf holds pages that have traveled farther than many people ever will. Thomas notices your curiosity. This house belonged to my parents. I was born right here. He looks around the room. When I was young, I thought I would leave someday. Almost everyone does at some point. He smiles. We dream about distant places, big cities, new adventures, and there is nothing wrong with that. The fire makes a soft, cracking sound. But sometimes, we discover that the place we were searching for was quietly waiting for us all along. The clock on the wall moves closer to midnight. The hands continue their slow journey. Tick, tick, tick. Thomas stands and walks toward the kitchen. He returns with 2 small plates. On one plate rests a slice of apple pie. The smell fills the room immediately. My neighbor gave this to me yesterday. He smiles. She always makes too much. You both enjoy the quiet evening treat. No music, no distractions, only the sound of the fireplace and the occasional whisper of the wind outside. The simple sweetness of the apple pie feels like a perfect ending to the day. After a while, Thomas looks toward the window. Tomorrow morning, the town will wake early. The bakery will open. The train will arrive. The children will walk to school. Farmers will begin their work. He pauses, and everyone will believe it is just another ordinary day. He smiles gently. But ordinary days are usually the ones we remember most. You look outside. The moonlight rests softly over Maple Hollow. The same streets you walked earlier now appear completely different. The shops are closed, the gardens are quiet, the roads are empty. Yet the town feels alive, not with noise, but with memories. With all the small moments that happened there. A letter delivered, a conversation shared, a warm meal prepared, a simple kindness offered. Thomas prepares a final cup of tea before standing. I think it is time to rest. He walks toward the door and checks that the lantern outside is still burning. The small flame dances gently in the night. For many years, Thomas has placed that lantern there every evening. Not because anyone asked him to, not because it was necessary, but because he believes a small light can make a place feel welcoming. A reminder that someone is home. A reminder that someone cares. Before entering the quiet bedroom, Thomas looks once more toward the valley. Maple Hollow sleeps peacefully beneath the stars. The old church tower stands silently. Willow Creek continues flowing. The maple trees continue swaying. And somewhere in the darkness, the brass bell waits for morning. Tomorrow will bring a new day, new letters, new stories, new memories. But tonight, the town rests, and you rest too, knowing that even a small forgotten place can hold a lifetime of beautiful stories. The night passes quietly over Maple Hollow. The stars slowly move across the dark sky. The gentle wind continues its journey through the valley, touching the rooftops, the fields, and the old maple trees that have watched over the town for generations. Inside Thomas Walker's cottage, everything is still. The fireplace has become a soft bed of glowing embers. The old wooden clock continues its peaceful rhythm. Tick, tick, tick. And beneath the warmth of a quiet home, the town sleeps. Morning arrives slowly, not suddenly, not with noise, but gently. A soft gray light appears beyond the eastern hills. The first birds begin to sing. A few windows across Maple Hollow open as families welcome a new day. Smoke rises from chimneys as fireplaces are brought back to life. The bakery is the first place in town to awaken. Before most people have stepped outside, the smell of fresh bread has already begun traveling through the streets. The baker kneads the dough carefully, just as his father and grandfather did before him. Every morning follows the same peaceful tradition. The first loaf of bread, the first warm cup of coffee, the first greetings exchanged between neighbors. In Maple Hollow, mornings are not rushed. They are welcomed. At the edge of town, Thomas Walker opens his eyes. For a moment, he simply listens. The sound of birds outside his window, the quiet movement of the wind, the familiar sounds of a town beginning another day. He gets dressed slowly. There is no reason to hurry. The world will still be waiting. After preparing a simple breakfast, Thomas steps outside. The morning air is cool and fresh. A thin layer of mist rests above the grass. The maple tree beside his cottage has lost a few more leaves overnight. Thomas picks up his lantern from the porch. Then he looks toward the valley. The same valley he has looked at thousands of times. Yet somehow, it never looks exactly the same. As he walks toward the post office, people begin greeting him. "Good morning, Thomas. Beautiful day today. Looks like winter might arrive early." Simple words, simple moments. But these small greetings are what connect the town together. At the post office, a new collection of letters has arrived. The morning train has delivered mail from cities far away. Boston, New York, Chicago. Places that seem impossibly large compared to Maple Hollow. Thomas carefully sorts each envelope. He recognizes many names. The Miller family, the Harper family, the Wilsons, the young students who left town to continue their education, the relatives who moved away but still remembered home. Each letter carries a small piece of another world, and Thomas has the honor of bringing those pieces back to the people who are waiting. As he sorts through the final envelopes, he notices something unusual. A letter with no return address. Only one name is written on the front. Eleanor Harper. Thomas pauses. The same Eleanor from last night. The same woman who received the forgotten letter. For a moment, he simply looks at it. Another message. Another memory. Another piece of someone's story. He places it carefully aside. Not because it is more important than the others, but because every letter matters to someone. Outside, Maple Hollow has fully awakened. Children walk toward the schoolhouse. Farmers begin their morning work. The general store opens its doors. The railway station prepares for the first train of the day. Life continues, quietly, naturally, just as it always has. Thomas places the letters into his leather mailbag. He puts on his coat, and before leaving the post office, he looks once more at the old brass clock on the wall. Another day has begun. Another journey awaits. Another collection of stories is ready to be delivered. Thomas steps outside. The morning sunlight touches his face, and with a gentle smile, he begins walking the familiar roads of Maple Hollow. The morning sun rises higher above Maple Hollow. The mist that covered the fields slowly disappears, revealing the golden grass beneath. The town is awake now, not loudly, not hurriedly, but with the comfortable rhythm of people beginning another familiar day. Thomas Walker walks along the main road with his leather mailbag resting over his shoulder. The same road he has traveled for thousands of mornings. Yet every day brings something new. A different conversation, a different smile, a different story waiting quietly behind a front door. His first stop is the small white cottage near the edge of town. The home belongs to Eleanor Harper, the woman who received the special letter the previous evening. Thomas stands outside the gate for a moment. He notices the garden. The flowers are almost finished blooming for the season, but Eleanor still cares for every plant with patience. She believes gardens remember kindness. Thomas gently knocks. After a few moments, the door opens. Eleanor smiles when she sees him. "Good morning, Thomas." "Good morning, Eleanor." He removes an envelope from his bag. Her expression changes slightly. She already knows. This is another letter, another piece of a story that has traveled across time. She accepts it carefully. "Another one?" Thomas nods. "Yes." She looks down at the envelope. The handwriting is different from yesterday's, but something about it feels familiar. Where did it come from? Thomas glances at the postmark. California. For a moment, Eleanor says nothing. California. A place so far away that, to many people in Maple Hollow, it almost sounded like another country. She looks toward the horizon. "When I was young," she says softly, "I always wanted to see the ocean." Thomas smiles. "Did you ever?" She shakes her head gently. "No, but my brother did." A quiet smile appears on her face. "He wrote to me about it. He said the ocean was the largest thing he had ever seen, but somehow it still reminded him of home." Thomas listens quietly. Some memories do not need many words. Eleanor holds the letter close. "Thank you for bringing these to me." Thomas nods. "It's my pleasure." Before leaving, he notices a small wooden box sitting beside the doorway. Inside are dozens of old letters, carefully organized, each one tied with a different colored ribbon. "You kept them all?" Eleanor smiles. "Of course. Some people keep photographs. Some people keep jewelry. I keep words." Thomas smiles, because he understands. Words can carry voices. They can carry laughter. They can carry pieces of people who are no longer nearby. Thomas continues his morning route. The next stop is the Harper family's farm. A large wooden barn stands behind the house. The sound of horses moving inside mixes with the voices of workers preparing for the day. A young boy runs across the yard carrying a basket of apples. "Mr. Walker," Thomas smiles. "Good morning, Henry." The boy looks at the mailbag. "Any letters for me?" Thomas pretends to think carefully. He checks the bag, then shakes his head. Not today. The boy looks slightly disappointed. But perhaps tomorrow. The boy smiles again. Tomorrow is okay. Thomas watches him run back toward the barn. Such a simple moment. A child waiting for a letter. A future memory being created without anyone realizing it. As the morning continues, Thomas walks farther into the countryside. The roads become quieter, the houses become fewer, the fields become wider. Above him, birds move across the bright sky. The world feels open, endless. But Thomas knows every corner of this land, every path, every family, every story. And today, there is one more letter waiting inside his bag. A letter that will take him somewhere he has not visited in many years. A place where another forgotten memory is waiting to be found. The morning continues quietly across Maple Hollow. The sun has climbed higher now, warming the wooden fences, the old stone paths, and the fields that stretch beyond the town. Thomas Walker continues along the countryside road. His shadow moves slowly beside him. The leather mailbag rests against his shoulder, carrying not just letters, but pieces of people's lives. A handwritten apology, a birthday greeting, a message from someone far away, a reminder that someone still remembers. Thomas has always believed that a mail carrier does not simply deliver paper. He delivers connections. The road takes him toward the northern side of the valley. This part of Maple Hollow is less traveled. The houses are farther apart. The trees are taller. The sounds of the town become softer until only nature remains. Thomas follows a narrow path covered with fallen leaves. At the end of the path stands a small wooden cabin. The cabin is older than most homes in Maple Hollow. Its walls have been repaired many times. Its roof has been replaced more than once. But it still stands proudly beneath the trees. Thomas stops outside. He looks at the cabin for a moment. A small smile appears on his face. "This place has seen many years," he says softly. You notice a name carved into a wooden post beside the door. James Carter. Thomas knocks. After a short wait, an older man opens the door. His hair is white. His hands show the signs of many years of hard work, but his eyes are bright and welcoming. Thomas. The two men shake hands warmly. James. Thomas reaches into his mailbag. "I have something for you." James looks surprised. "For me?" Thomas nods. The envelope is thick. The handwriting is careful. James takes it slowly. For a moment, he simply looks at the name written on the front. Then he becomes quiet. "You know," James says, "I haven't received a letter from this person in a very long time." Thomas does not ask questions. He knows some stories need to be opened in their own time. James invites him inside. The cabin is simple: a wooden table, a small fireplace, a shelf filled with old tools, and a wall covered with photographs. Thomas looks at the pictures. There are mountains, rivers, families, old friends. A younger James standing beside a horse, a group of workers building a railway bridge, a young couple smiling outside a farmhouse. "Life moves quickly," James says quietly. "Sometimes we don't notice how many seasons have passed until we look back." He opens the letter. The room becomes silent. Thomas looks toward the fireplace, giving him privacy. After a few moments, James takes a slow breath. Then he smiles. Not a big smile, a quiet one, the kind that comes from the heart. "Good news?" Thomas asks. James nods. Yes. Very good news. He folds the letter carefully. My old friend is coming home. Thomas smiles. After all these years? James looks out the window. Some journeys take longer than others. Outside, the wind moves through the trees. A few golden leaves fall gently to the ground. Thomas thinks about all the journeys he has witnessed. People leaving, people returning, letters traveling across thousands of miles. Promises remembered after many years. He realizes something. A town is not only made of buildings and roads, it is made of stories, and every person carries one. Before leaving, James walks with Thomas to the porch. Thank you for bringing this. Thomas smiles. It's my work. James shakes his head gently. No, it's more than that. You remind people that they are not forgotten. Thomas does not answer immediately. He simply looks toward the valley. The morning sun shines over Maple Hollow. The same valley, the same roads, the same peaceful town. But every day, a new story begins. Thomas adjusts his mailbag. There are still more letters to deliver, more doors to knock on, more lives waiting quietly on the other side. And so, the journey continues. Thomas Walker leaves James Carter's cabin and returns to the quiet country road. The morning sun shines through the tall trees, creating soft golden patterns across the path. The air feels fresh, the kind of fresh air that comes after a peaceful night. Thomas walks slowly. He is never in a hurry. He knows every letter will arrive when it is meant to arrive. Every person will open their door at the right moment, and every story will unfold in its own time. The road leads toward the eastern fields of Maple Hollow. This area is known for its old farms. Generations of families have worked this land, planting in spring, growing through summer, harvesting in autumn, resting during winter. The fields seem to remember every season that has passed. As Thomas walks, he notices a young farmer standing beside a wooden fence. His name is Daniel. He's looking across the field, watching several horses moving slowly through the grass. Thomas stops. Good morning, Daniel. The young farmer turns and smiles. Good morning, Thomas. Thomas notices the thoughtful expression on his face. Everything all right? Daniel looks across the field again. I was just thinking. Thomas smiles. That can be a dangerous activity. Daniel laughs softly. My father always said this farm would belong to me one day. But now that it does, I wonder if I'm doing enough. Thomas rests his hand on the wooden fence. For a moment, he watches the fields with him. Then he says, Do you know something about these fields? Daniel looks curious. What? They don't become beautiful overnight. They need patience, rain, sunlight, care, and time. Thomas looks toward the crops. People are the same. We often judge ourselves by what we see today, but we forget everything it took to get here. Daniel smiles quietly. I never thought about it that way. Thomas nods. Most good things are growing, even when we cannot see them. After saying goodbye, Thomas continues his route. The road brings him toward a small schoolhouse. The sound of children's voices grows louder as he approaches. Outside, several children play during their morning break. A wooden swing hangs from a large tree beside the building. The children laugh as they take turns, pushing each other higher. When they see Thomas, they wave. Mr. Walker? Thomas smiles. Good morning. A young girl runs toward him. Did you bring any letters today? Thomas pretends to search his bag. Perhaps. The children gather around with curiosity, not because they expect letters for themselves, but because Thomas's arrival is always a small event. In a small town, even ordinary moments can feel special. The teacher steps outside. Don't keep Mr. Walker too long. The children laugh and return to their games. Thomas watches them for a moment. He remembers being that age, running through these same fields, dreaming about the future, not knowing where life would take him. Before leaving, the teacher hands Thomas a small envelope. This needs to be mailed this afternoon. Thomas accepts it. Where is it going? New York. Thomas looks at the address. Another journey begins. A small piece of paper traveling from a quiet town in America to a city full of millions of people. He places it safely inside his bag. By noon, Thomas has completed many of his deliveries. The sun is now high above Maple Hollow. The town has become warmer and brighter. The bakery is busy. The general store is filled with customers. The railway station prepares for the afternoon train. Life continues. Quietly. Naturally. But Thomas knows the day is not finished yet, because hidden among the remaining letters in his bag is one envelope he has not delivered. One letter with a familiar handwriting. One letter connected to a story that began many years ago. And before the evening bell rings again, that story will finally begin to reveal itself. The afternoon sun gently moves across the sky above Maple Hollow. The morning deliveries are complete. The streets are warmer now. Children's laughter comes from the schoolhouse. The sound of a hammer echoes from the blacksmith's workshop. The bakery door opens and closes as neighbors come and go. It is an ordinary afternoon. But in Maple Hollow, ordinary moments are often the ones people remember forever. Thomas Walker walks back toward the post office for a short rest. His leather mailbag is lighter now. Most of the letters have found their homes. But one envelope remains. He can feel its presence every time he moves. Not because it is heavy, but because of the memories connected to it. Inside the post office, the afternoon light enters through the old glass windows. Dust particles dance quietly in the golden sunlight. Thomas places his mailbag on the wooden counter. The room smells of paper, ink, and old wood. The same familiar scent he has known for decades. He takes out the final envelope. He looks at the handwriting. He knows it immediately. The careful curves, the steady lines. A handwriting he has seen many times before. The letter is addressed to Mr. William Harper. Thomas becomes still for a moment. The Harper family. Another connection. Another story. William Harper lives near the northern edge of town. He's not a man who often speaks about the past. He's respected by everyone. Quiet. Kind. Always willing to help a neighbor. But Thomas knows there are memories William rarely shares. Memories that belong to another time. A time before the roads were paved. Before automobiles became common. Before Maple Hollow became the peaceful town it is today. Thomas places the letter carefully back into his bag. He decides to deliver it before sunset. Some letters are better delivered at the right moment. The afternoon begins to fade. The sky slowly changes colors. The golden light of the sun touches the rooftops. Thomas leaves the post office once again. The people of Maple Hollow recognize his familiar walk. A few neighbors wave. A few simply smile. Everyone knows Thomas is carrying stories. The road toward William Harper's home passes through the oldest part of town. Here, the houses stand close together. The gardens are small, the fences are low. Neighbors can easily talk across their yards. In this part of Maple Hollow, everyone knows everyone. A woman watering flowers greets Thomas. A man repairing a wooden chair waves from his porch. A child rides a bicycle slowly along the road. Life moves gently here, like the hands of an old clock. Finally, Thomas reaches the Harper home. The house is larger than many others in town. A wide porch stretches across the front. Old oak trees surround the property. Thomas pauses before walking up the steps. He looks at the windows. A warm light shines from inside. Someone is home. He knocks. After a few moments, the door opens. An elderly man stands there. William Harper. He smiles when he sees Thomas. "Good afternoon, Thomas." "Good afternoon, William." Thomas reaches into his bag. "I have something for you." The moment William sees the envelope, his expression changes. Not fear, not surprise, something deeper, recognition. He slowly takes the letter. His fingers move across the paper. And for several seconds, he says nothing. Because sometimes, a person knows the meaning of a letter before they even open it. William Harper stands quietly at the doorway. The afternoon breeze moves gently through the oak trees surrounding his home. A few golden leaves fall between you and him, floating slowly toward the ground. For a moment, the world seems to pause. William looks down at the envelope in his hands. His name is written clearly on the front. But the handwriting, that is what caught his attention. Thomas watches silently. He has delivered thousands of letters in his lifetime. He knows that some letters bring happiness, some bring news, some bring memories, and some bring a piece of the past back into the present. William slowly opens the door wider. "Come inside, Thomas." The old house welcomes you with warmth. The wooden floor makes a soft sound beneath your footsteps. The room smells of cedar wood, old books, and fresh coffee. A large clock hangs on the wall. It ticks steadily, the same calm rhythm found throughout Maple Hollow. William walks toward a comfortable chair beside the window. He does not open the letter immediately. Instead, he places it on the table. Then he looks outside. I never thought I would see this handwriting again. Thomas sits quietly nearby. He does not ask questions. He knows William will speak when he is ready. After a few moments, William takes a slow breath. "When I was a young man, I had a brother." The room becomes quiet. His name was Samuel. William smiles faintly. "We were different in almost every way. I loved this town. Samuel wanted to see everything beyond it." Thomas listens carefully. He dreamed about traveling. He wanted to visit places he had only read about in books. So, one spring morning, he left Maple Hollow. William looks at the old letter. He promised he would return. But years passed, and the world changed. Outside the window, the afternoon sunlight continues fading. At first, the letters came often, then less often. Then, William pauses. Then they stopped. The fireplace beside him makes a quiet, crackling sound. Thomas looks toward the flames, not wanting to interrupt the memory. People told me to forget. They said he had chosen another life. But a person cannot simply forget someone they love. William finally opens the envelope. The paper inside is carefully folded. His eyes move slowly across the words. For a long moment, there is only silence. Then something changes. A small smile appears. Not a smile of surprise, a smile of relief. Thomas notices. Good news? William looks up. Yes. His voice is quiet. Very good news. He looks back at the letter. Samuel is alive. The words remain in the room. Simple. Powerful. After so many years, a lost connection has returned. William carefully folds the letter again. He's coming back to Maple Hollow. Thomas smiles. After all this time? William nods. Some journeys take longer than we expect. A gentle breeze enters through the open window. The curtains move softly. For a moment, the old house feels lighter, as if a missing piece has finally returned. Before leaving, Thomas stands near the door. William shakes his hand. Thank you, Thomas. Thomas smiles. I only delivered the letter. William looks at him. No. You carried it all these years. Thomas is surprised. What do you mean? William smiles. Every person in this town trusts you with their stories. You are not just the man who brings letters. You are the person who brings people back together. Thomas lowers his eyes with a quiet smile. Outside, the sun begins to disappear behind the hills. The evening is approaching. Soon, the forgotten bell will ring again. And when it does, Maple Hollow will once more gather beneath its gentle sound. But tonight, one family will wait with a little more hope than before. The sun slowly disappears behind the western hills. The golden light that covered Maple Hollow during the afternoon begins to fade into soft shades of orange and blue. Thomas Walker leaves the Harper home and walks back toward the center of town. His steps are slow, thoughtful. The letter he delivered today was not just a letter. It was a bridge between the past and the present. A reminder that some connections never truly disappear. They simply wait. The evening air becomes cooler. Smoke rises gently from chimneys as families begin preparing their dinners. Through open windows, you can hear the quiet sounds of home, the clinking of dishes, the voices of families talking, the gentle laughter of children. Small sounds, simple sounds, but together, they create the heartbeat of Maple Hollow. As Thomas reaches the town square, he notices something unusual. Several people have gathered near the old maple tree. Neighbors stand together, speaking quietly. Children sit on the wooden fence nearby. The baker has stepped outside. The shopkeeper has closed the front door of his store. Even the station master has walked up from the railway platform. Everyone seems to be waiting. Thomas smiles. He already knows why. Tonight is the evening when the town gathers a little earlier than usual. Because tonight, the bell will ring. At the top of the hill, beside the old white church, stands the small bell tower. Inside hangs the brass bell that has watched over Maple Hollow for generations. The rope connected to the bell hangs quietly, waiting. A young man climbs the wooden steps toward the tower. His name is Robert. He is the newest person trusted with the evening tradition. His grandfather once rang the bell. His father rang the bell. And now, it is his turn. Before pulling the rope, Robert looks down at the town below. He sees familiar faces, people he has known his entire life. Neighbors, friends, family. For a moment, he understands something important. The bell is not only a sound, it is a promise that everyone belongs. Thomas stands beneath the maple tree. the same tree that has watched countless evenings pass. He looks around the square. The people of Maple Hollow are different ages, different backgrounds, different stories. But at this moment, they are all sharing the same quiet moment together. The evening breeze moves through the branches. The last sunlight touches the rooftops. And then, Robert pulls the rope. The brass bell rings. One clear note, gentle, warm, beautiful. The sound travels across the valley, over the houses, across the fields, along Willow Creek. The people do not speak. They simply listen, because sometimes a single sound can say more than many words. After the bell fades away, conversations slowly begin again. The baker smiles. The children laugh. Neighbors wish each other a peaceful evening. The town begins returning home. But Thomas remains beneath the maple tree for a little longer. You stand beside him. Does it ever feel different, you ask? Thomas looks toward the bell tower. Every time. Why? He smiles. Because every evening is different. Yesterday's bell carried yesterday's stories. Today's bell carries today's memories. The wind moves gently through the leaves. A few golden leaves fall around you. Thomas watches them drift downward. One day, another person will stand where Robert stood. Another person will pull that rope. And another generation will hear the same sound. He smiles softly. That is how places stay alive. The night begins to settle over Maple Hollow once again. The lanterns glow. The roads become quiet. The families return home. And somewhere inside the little town, a new story has quietly begun. Because tomorrow, a traveler will arrive. A train will bring someone back. And an old promise made many years ago will finally find its way home. The sound of the evening bell slowly disappears into the quiet valley. But its feeling remains. The people of Maple Hollow begin their walk home beneath the first stars of the night. Lanterns glow beside doorways. Smoke rises gently from chimneys. The streets become peaceful once again. Thomas Walker remains beneath the old maple tree for a little longer. He watches the last few neighbors leave the square. Every person carries something with them. A memory from the day, a conversation, a small moment of kindness. Thomas has always believed that these are the things that truly build a town. Not the buildings, not the roads, but the moments people share. As you walk beside Thomas toward his cottage, the town slowly becomes quieter. The bakery closes its doors. The general store turns off its final lamp. The schoolhouse sits empty beneath the moonlight. Everything returns to its familiar place. But tonight feels slightly different. Because everyone in Maple Hollow knows something important. Samuel Carter is coming home. And tomorrow, a train will arrive. The railway station sits at the edge of town. During the day, it is filled with movement. Trains arriving, passengers leaving, packages being loaded. But at night, it becomes a peaceful place. The wooden platform rests beneath the stars. The station clock continues ticking. Tick, tick, tick. Inside the small station office, the station master checks the next day's schedule. A note is written carefully on his desk. Morning train, arrival, 8:15 a.m. One passenger is expected. A name written beside it, Samuel Carter. The station master looks at the name for a moment. Then he smiles. He remembers Samuel. Everyone in Maple Hollow remembers him. The young man who left with dreams in his heart. The young man who wanted to see the world beyond the hills. Meanwhile, at the Harper home, William sits beside his fireplace. The old letter rests beside him. He has read it many times already. Each time, the words feel the same. Yet each time, they bring a different feeling. Hope, relief, happiness. He opens a wooden drawer and takes out an old photograph. Two young brothers stand beside a tree. One is William, the other is Samuel. They are smiling. Their clothes are simple. Their dreams are big. William gently touches the photograph. "I knew you would come back someday," he whispers. Outside the window, the autumn wind moves through the trees, almost like an answer. Morning is still many hours away. But across Maple Hollow, people are already thinking about tomorrow, a returning brother, a long-awaited reunion, a story that was paused many years ago. And finally, a new chapter. Back at Thomas Walker's cottage, the old mail carrier prepares for sleep. His lantern rests beside the door. His coat hangs neatly on the wooden hook. The house is quiet. Before turning off the final light, Thomas looks once more toward the valley. The little town sleeps peacefully. He smiles, because tomorrow will not be just another day. Tomorrow will remind everyone of something they sometimes forget. That no matter how far someone travels, and no matter how much time passes, some roads always lead back home. The night passes peacefully over Maple Hollow. The moon travels slowly across the sky. The old maple trees stand quietly beneath the silver light. Inside every home, families rest. Dreams begin. Memories continue. And somewhere beyond the hills, a train moves through the darkness, carrying a passenger who has been away for many years. Early morning arrives. The first rays of sunlight touch the rooftops of Maple Hollow. Birds begin their morning songs. The bakery chimney releases its first smoke of the day. The smell of fresh bread once again travels through the quiet streets. The town wakes slowly. But today, there is a feeling of excitement, a feeling that something special is coming. At the Harper home, William wakes earlier than usual. He stands beside the window, looking toward the railway tracks in the distance. He has done this many times before. Waiting, hoping, remembering. But today is different. Today he is not only remembering, today he is waiting for someone to arrive. On the table beside him rests the old photograph of two young brothers. Beside it is the letter from Samuel. William reads the final lines once more. "I have thought about coming home every day. I hope there is still a place for me there." William smiles softly. "There has always been a place for you," he whispers. At the railway station, Thomas Walker arrives early. He carries no mailbag today, only his familiar walking stick and his warm coat. The station master looks surprised. "Thomas, you're here early." Thomas smiles. Some arrivals are worth waiting for. The two old friends stand together on the platform. The morning air is cool. A thin mist rests over the tracks. Everyone listens, waiting for the sound that means someone is coming home. Then, far away, a whistle, a long, gentle whistle. The sound travels through the valley, the same sound that has announced thousands of arrivals and departures. But today, it feels different. People begin appearing near the station. The baker, the shopkeeper, neighbors from nearby homes, even some children from the schoolhouse. Nobody told them to come. They simply came. Because in Maple Hollow, a person's return was everyone's moment. The train slowly appears through the morning mist. The wheels move steadily along the tracks, closer and closer, until finally, the train arrives. Steam rises around the platform. The doors open. Passengers step down. Families reunite. Greetings are exchanged. But everyone is watching for one person. A tall man with a worn travel bag. A man carrying years of memories. A man who once left as a young dreamer, and now returns with a lifetime of stories. Then Thomas sees him. He recognizes him immediately, even after all these years. Samuel. The man looks up. For a moment, neither of them speaks, because some reunions do not need words. Samuel smiles. Thomas smiles. And then Samuel steps onto the platform of Maple Hollow once again. The town he left many years ago. The place he never truly forgot. For a few moments, the railway platform becomes completely silent. The steam from the train slowly rises into the morning air. The sound of the engine fades, and all that remains is the quiet moment between two brothers who have been separated by many years. Samuel Carter stands still. He looks around. The old station, the wooden platform, the familiar hills beyond the tracks. Everything feels both new and exactly the same. Some places do not change. They simply wait. William Harper walks slowly toward him. Neither brother knows exactly what to say. There are too many years between them, too many memories, too many words that were never spoken. Finally, William smiles. "You're really here." Samuel takes a deep breath. Yes, his voice is quiet. "I'm home." Those two words carry more meaning than a long conversation ever could. William reaches forward. The two brothers embrace, not quickly, not dramatically. Just a simple moment between two people who have missed each other for a lifetime. Around them, the people of Maple Hollow watch quietly. Some smile. Some wipe away a small tear. Because everyone understands. This is not only a family reunion, it is a reminder that some bonds are stronger than distance, stronger than time. After a few moments, Samuel steps back. He looks at his brother. "You look older." William laughs softly. "So do you." They both laugh, a familiar laugh, the kind that returns instantly, even after many years apart. Thomas watches from nearby. A peaceful smile rests on his face. He has delivered many letters, but today he has witnessed something even more special. A letter became a journey. A journey became a reunion, and a reunion became a new beginning. As the group leaves the station, Samuel walks slowly beside William. Everyone wants to hear his stories, where he has been, what he has seen, how life treated him beyond Maple Hollow. But Samuel does not rush. He stops several times, looking at the familiar places, the old bridge, the maple trees, the road leading into town, the fields stretching across the valley. "I forgot how quiet it is here," Samuel says. William smiles. "You used to say it was too quiet." Samuel laughs. "I was young." They continue walking. When they reach the town square, Samuel stops beneath the old maple tree. He places one hand against the rough bark. "I remember this tree." William nods. "You and I used to climb it." Samuel smiles. "And you always told me I would fall." "You almost did." "But I didn't." William laughs. "No, you were always determined." Samuel looks around the square, the bakery, the store, the church tower, the streets where he once walked as a young man. The town feels smaller than he remembers, but somehow it feels more precious. That evening, something unusual happens in Maple Hollow. The evening bell rings, but this time, the whole town gathers not because the day is ending. They gather because a story has returned. The bell echoes across the valley, a sound that carries welcome, a sound that carries memory, a sound that says, someone found their way home. As the people of Maple Hollow stand together beneath the evening sky, Thomas Walker looks toward the bell tower. He knows tomorrow will bring new letters, new journeys, new stories. But tonight, the town celebrates one simple truth. No matter how far a person travels, somewhere, there is always a road waiting to bring them home. The evening bell continues to echo across Maple Hollow, one gentle sound after another, traveling over the rooftops, across the fields, along the quiet waters of Willow Creek. The people stand beneath the old maple tree, sharing a moment they know they will remember for many years. Samuel Carter looks around at the faces of the town. Many are unfamiliar. Children he has never met. Families who arrived after he left. New homes built beside old ones. But the feeling of Maple Hollow, that has remained. The baker steps forward first. Samuel, welcome home. The shopkeeper smiles. We heard many stories about your travels. A young boy looks up at him with curiosity. Did you really see the ocean? Samuel laughs softly. Yes. The boy's eyes become wide. What was it like? Samuel looks toward the evening sky. For a moment, he searches for the right words. Imagine the biggest thing you have ever seen. The boy nods. Now, imagine something much bigger. Everyone smiles. Samuel continues. But do you know what surprised me most? The boy shakes his head. Even after seeing mountains and oceans, the place I missed most was this little valley. Thomas watches quietly. He notices something. Samuel has changed. The young man who left Maple Hollow many years ago wanted to see the entire world. The man who returned understands something different. Sometimes the greatest discoveries are not always found in distant places. Sometimes they are found in the places we once left behind. Later that evening, William invites everyone to his home. The house that had been quiet for many years is suddenly filled with voices, laughter, stories, memories. The fireplace burns brightly. Cups of warm tea sit on the wooden table. Samuel sits beside his brother, telling stories from his journey. He talks about cities filled with tall buildings, about oceans that seemed endless, about people from places he had only read about as a child. The children listened carefully, their imagination traveling far beyond Maple Hollow. But every story eventually returns to one place: home. After dinner, Samuel and William step outside onto the porch. The night sky is clear. The stars shine above the valley. For a while, they simply sit together. No need for many words. Finally, William speaks. Why didn't you come back sooner? The question is gentle, not angry, just honest. Samuel looks down. I thought too much time had passed. I thought maybe I didn't belong here anymore. William looks at him. Samuel, this town never forgot you. Samuel takes a slow breath. I wrote many letters. I kept writing, but sometimes I didn't know if anyone wanted to hear from me. William smiles sadly. We were waiting. A quiet moment passes. Then Samuel says, I wish I had known. William looks toward the stars. Maybe we both needed time. Across town, Thomas returns to his cottage. His lantern hangs beside the door, the same lantern that has welcomed him home for decades. He removes his coat and sits beside the window. From there, he can see the lights of Maple Hollow. Tonight, there are more lights than usual. More homes awake. More people sharing stories. Thomas smiles because he understands something. A town is not kept alive by buildings. It is kept alive by the people who return, the people who remember, and the people who continue sharing their stories. Tomorrow morning, the mail will arrive again. New letters will come. New journeys will begin. But tonight, Maple Hollow rests peacefully, and for the first time in many years, two brothers sleep under the same stars. The morning arrives softly over Maple Hollow. The first sunlight touches the hills. A light mist floats above the fields. The world slowly wakes. But today feels different. Not because the town has changed, but because yesterday brought something back that had been missing for many years. Hope. Inside the Harper home, William wakes early. For the first time in a long while, the house feels different. There is another voice in the kitchen, another set of footsteps on the wooden floor, another cup placed beside the fireplace. Samuel is awake before him, just like when they were young. William stands in the doorway and smiles. I thought travelers liked sleeping late. Samuel laughs. I spent years waking up in unfamiliar places. He looks around the room. I think I finally want to wake up somewhere familiar. After breakfast, the brothers walk through the town together. Samuel wants to see everything, not as a visitor, but as someone returning home. They walk past the bakery. The baker waves. They pass the general store. The shopkeeper steps outside to greet him. They cross the old wooden bridge near Willow Creek. Samuel stops there, the same bridge where he and William once sat as children. I remember this place. William smiles. You used to throw stones into the water for hours. Samuel laughs. And you always told me I was wasting time. I was right. They both laugh. But then they become quiet, watching the water move beneath them. Years had passed, but the river had continued flowing, just like life. Later that afternoon, Samuel visits the old schoolhouse. The building is smaller than he remembers. The windows are newer. The wooden steps have been repaired. But the feeling remains. A place where children learn. A place where dreams begin. A young teacher welcomes him inside. Mr. Carter, the children would love to hear about your travels. Samuel looks surprised. Me? The teacher smiles. Who better? The children gather around him. They ask questions. Did you see a real ocean? Did you travel by ship? Are cities really bigger than Maple Hollow? Samuel answers each question patiently. But before leaving, he tells them something important. When I was your age, I thought adventure meant going far away. The children listen carefully. But I learned something. Adventure is not only about where you go. It is about what you learn and who you become along the way. The classroom becomes quiet. Even the teacher listens. Because sometimes simple words carry the greatest lessons. As the afternoon fades, Thomas Walker visits the post office. A new group of letters has arrived. He sorts them carefully. One envelope catches his attention. The handwriting is unfamiliar. The address is written to Samuel Carter. Thomas pauses. Another letter. Another connection. He looks at the envelope thoughtfully. Yesterday, one letter brought Samuel home. Today, another letter has arrived. Perhaps another story is waiting. Thomas places the letter safely aside. He smiles. Because after many years of delivering mail, he has learned one thing. A letter is never just paper. It is a beginning, a memory, a hope, a voice traveling through time. The evening sun begins to disappear behind the hills. Soon, the bell will ring again, and another peaceful night will begin in Maple Hollow. But before that happens, Samuel Carter will receive a letter that may reveal a part of his journey he has never shared with anyone.